Okay, call to order the February 10th regular meeting of the Jersey Shore Area School District Board of Directors. We have a roll call, Ms. Renders.
Mr. Becker.
Here.
Mr. Burgard. Mrs. Dobler.
Here.
Mrs. Grant.
Here.
Mr. Kinley.
Here.
Mrs. Petrowski.
Here.
Mrs. Stemler.
Here.
Mrs. Thomas.
Here.
Mr. Allen.
Here.
8 members present, 1 absent.
Okay. Dr. Davey, you have some guests?
Well, I have a feeling all these people aren't here to see us. Yep, first of all, we do have a couple of students from Jersey Shore Elementary to lead the pledge before we get into some of these presentations and stuff. So, Ms. Johnston.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome Brady Allison and Isabella Gottschall, both 5th grade students from Mrs. Kephardt's class.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. I believe they have something else for us as well, correct?
They do.
But for now, Isabella. Thank you. Sorry, I should have shook your other hand. Sorry about that. Brady? How you doing? Dad's not even paying attention. Dad's not even paying... There you go. All right. There you go. Now, I believe they have something else for us, yes?
Yes. Okay, there we go. Come on over here, guys. The reason that Brady and Isabella are here to lead us in the pledge is because they also have a special project which they initiated on their own that they would like to share a little bit with you about tonight.
Hi, I'm Brady. And I'm Isabella. We are 5th grade students that represent JSASD for our School District's Advisory Council. Through the Advisory Council, we have learned a lot of cool things that our school district does for students. One thing that stood out to both of us was the way that our school district is so good at giving back to our community. That's where we came up with the concept of kindness counts. We presented the idea to our principal to have students donate items to the residents at Manor Care. We set a goal of 500 items. She approved this idea, so we started working on the video and creating a presentation to present to the different classes. We kicked off the fundraiser on Monday, February 3rd, and it will continue until this Thursday. Thankfully, our school has already reached its goal as of today. We have gathered the items this morning and are happy to report that we have 511 items to take to Manor Care this Friday. Since we met our goal early, our PTO is generous enough to buy us gift bags for each resident. We are going to individually package a goodie bag for each person at Manor Care.
Congratulations, that is excellent. And we have a short video to share with you as well.
What is something kind you do for someone? What is one way you can spread kindness in yourself? What does kindness mean to you? To be respectful of someone who's talking to you. What is something nice you do for other people? Be nice to people that you with you. What is something kind you do for someone? What your goal is for somebody? How do you treat others with kindness? By treating them how you want. How do you treat others with kindness? How do you spread kindness to other people? If someone likes who you can help them to where they need to go. What is something kind you do for others? Something kind you can do for others is helping them do their homework if they have trouble. Hi, I'm Brady. And I'm Isabella. We are 5th grade students here at JSASD that want to help spread kindness to our community. And we need your help. We decided to gather items for our local nursing home so that the residents can feel joy and love through the winter season. We're calling this Kind Sales.
Here is where you come in. We need your help in gathering items such as bags of hard candy, small tissue packs, crossword puzzles, and word searches.
We know how well JSASD does with goals, so we set a goal of 500 items.
Don't forget Brady, the top donor gets a mystery prize. We are going to start collecting items on Monday, February 3rd.
Isabella, you're forgetting the best news yet. We get extra recess if the entire school meets our goal.
You can start bringing in items on Monday, February 3rd. We will continue collecting until Thursday, February 13th. Look for the boxes in your hallways.
Thanks for helping spread kindness.
Just another example of why we have the best kids.
Okay, communications?
The only communications I have is, just so you're aware, the board has been going around before board meetings to visit the various buildings, just to help them become more knowledgeable about each of the buildings that are part of our campuses. We visited Avis and Jersey Shore Elementary before this board meeting, which is why a lot of them came in at the last minute. And so you'll see that at the next couple board meetings. They may be coming in right before the board meeting starts, because we'll be going through 2 more buildings before the next meeting and so on. The only question I have, and this is actually a question for you guys, because it did feel a little rushed there towards the end, and maybe for the next meeting, when we go through the buildings, we'll show like less classrooms, since they're very similar, so you can see more of the other parts of the buildings, if that's okay. Does that sound all right? So you have more time seeing various parts rather than too many classrooms?
Anything else? Okay, President's report. Just reporting that I'm serving on the state PSBA Cyber Task Force. And then just this past week, I was invited to serve on the governance committee for PSBA as well, out of Mechanicsburg. Student representative report.
Nothing to report this evening.
Thank you. Intermediate unit.
I don't have anything to report.
Thank you, Mrs. Petrosky. Superintendent's report.
All right, we do have a couple of different presentations, and we are going to start with probably maybe the most patient kindergartners I've seen. So Mrs. Nemo and Mrs. Gasparin, if you want to take over from here, this is regarding book donations and some other things that go along with it.
Can I have my kindergarten friends come sit up front? We have some helpers that are going to pass out some information about what we're speaking about tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
Zemo. I'm a kindergarten teacher at Jersey Shore Elementary. I've been with the district for about 14 years. One of the many jobs that a kindergarten teacher has is to improve literacy skills with their students. One of the most successful ways to improve literacy is to increase children's access to books, especially at home. But according to the U.S. Department of Education, up to 61% of low-income families do not have any or enough books for their children at home. So this is children without bedtime stories. Children without parents who are modeling how to read. The project I am presenting tonight will play an essential role in providing 24/7 access to books for all Jersey Shore area children. Little Free Libraries. A Little Free Library is a non-profit organization that inspires a love of reading, builds community, and sparks creativity through the use of neighborhood book sharing boxes. These boxes, or libraries, are filled with donated books for sharing. So patrons can peruse the shelves, take a book, leave a book, do both. The best part about Little Free Libraries is that anyone can use it for free, without a membership. They're always open, they're always free. This way we can share children's literature with our newest readers at locations that they frequent, our elementary schools. Families are already there, so it makes it easy for family engagement. Tonight I have brought a few of my tiniest Little Free Library curators. They're going to help me to present the Jersey Shore area Little Free Library for Jersey Shore Elementary. We have one of 3 libraries that Mr. Hager's woodchuck class at the high school built. Ms. Jody English's Key Club and art students designed and painted it, along with 122 Jersey Shore Elementary kindergarten students. So we hope that Little Free Libraries will bring a little more joy, a little more connection, and a whole lot more books to our community. Okay. So, you want to do slideshow now? All right, so we have a slideshow of the process from a field trip to Mr. Rigger's class all the way to the painting.
You don't know me, but my name's Ty. I'm just the old hand delivery guy. But it seems like trees might be worth a try. So I say, let it go. My name is Dan.
And my name's Rose.
Our son Wesley kinda glows. And that's not good, so we suppose we should let it grow.
Let it grow, let it grow. You can't reap what you don't sow. Plant a seed inside the earth. Just one way to know its worth. Let's celebrate the world's been birthed. We say let it grow.
My name's Mary and I am 3. I would really like to see a tree. La 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 la. I said let it grow.
I'm Grammy Norma, I'm old and I've got gray hair. But I remember when trees were everywhere and no one had to pay for air. So I say, let it grow. Let it grow, let it grow. Like it did so long ago. It's just one tiny seed, but it's all we really need. It's time to change the life we lead. Time to let it grow.
My name's O'Hare, I'm one of you. I live here in Thanadeville too. The things you say just might be true. It could be time to start anew and maybe change my point of view. Nah, I say let it die. Let it die, let it die. Let it shrivel up and come on, who's with me, huh?
Nobody.
You gritty dirtbag!
Let it grow.
just the Jersey Shore Elementary library, but there is one for Avis and for Salisbury as well. And staff will be in charge of keeping track of books and making sure they are full and ready to go. All right, so can my little curators please stand up? We're gonna put this in the middle first, okay? Which way is it?
I can't wait to see it.
Right, just put it in the middle.
I see it.
Yes, this is what kindergarten used to be like. All right, you ready? Listen. Where's the baby? I have blue on this side. You're gonna do blue. Allie, can you hold blue? Frankie, come hold blue. All right. You're gonna be yellow. Me? You and Meadow and Helen. And then you guys are red. You hold red. Hold red, Jackson. Hold red. Jackson, red and yellow. Come on. All right, are you ready? On the count of three, we're gonna do blue. 1, 2, 3. Point. Okay, yellow, and red.
It's Laura.
Do you remember Julie? All right, thank you.
Can we, before they go anywhere, can we get Mr. Rager and the teenagers and Mrs. English? And you're part of this as well. Can we get a picture with the kids with this? Hold on, we're going to give you a little more room. We're going to move this table for you. Oh, please, the more pictures the better, because you never know how they're going to turn out. So.
Make sure everybody's okay, everybody's smiling.
Are we missing anybody that should be up there? So if you've taken a picture and one turns out really well, please feel free to send it to my email address. Thank you. And thank you guys very much. Sorry, Jack. Jack can't come home. When we get to mine, we do.
So we're good until you.
Hold on a minute. I'll take a look. No, we're doing the budget video next. And then I'm at the end. Well, they've all seen the best parts, so that leaves. All right, we're going to be. You will want your budget binders if you brought them. If not,
Yes. Jennifer, Jennifer.
oh, that's right. Jennifer's on.
Don't have that.
And Luann. Yes.
I promise I'll be brief. I will be brief. 5 minutes, I want to.
Yeah, this is still part of the book donation.
Okay.
Clock just started.
The clock started, okay. Well, we have had, okay, Chad, how do I bring this way? There we go.
The Waldman family wants to donate 103 books to the Jersey Shore Elementary Library. Where did I go? Okay. Some of them are accelerated reader books and some are not. That's a picture of 4 of the 103 that we have. I have them right now in a box at my house. We are requesting that the donation be accepted, and if we can probably put a small, I think it's a plaque or something, sticker inside the cover saying that they are a donation from the Waldman family. That's one. Another thing we have is a grant opportunity came across my desk from American Farmers. Oh, sorry. There we go. This grant opportunity actually comes from American Farmers. In order to be eligible for this grant, you have to have someone in your district who farms at least 250 acres. And they must sign on to their website and then nominate the district in order for that to occur. In which then we get a password to sign off for the application. We have 3 farmers in our district who nominated us. So right now we are able to get into the website. We can apply for a grant up to $15,000. I spoke with Ken and Jill and Stephen about possibly applying, and all 3 of them said that wouldn't be a bad idea. Now, we do not have a possible project yet. What kind of projects are funded? It's funded through Bayer Corporation, and that first paragraph there actually is right from their website. They will fund just about anything in STEM or math every year. School districts are encouraged to write grant applications that fund projects that meet the individual needs of the district. It doesn't matter how many farmers nominate you, it doesn't matter how much it is. They're looking for stuff that the individual district could use. And they're very broad. They'll fund greenhouses, they'll fund science equipment, they'll fund creating maker spaces. There's a couple of examples right there. Possible projects would be maybe something with the sciences or something with the CTE program. Maybe get computers for a CAD class. Again, we had one at one point in time, and if possible we could resurrect that. So I mean that would be some examples. So right now we're still in that discussion stage. The deadline is April 1st. So this isn't something that, I can, it's a rather intensive grant, and it's something that I'm going to need at least a month to do. Okay? So, I mean, that's one. I have a newsletter that comes through my email regularly. We're saying twice a week, sometimes more, from different places. And I just go through them, see if there's anything that we can possibly use for some reason or other. If there's something that you would like to see funded, would you please let me know? And I'll just keep looking. I'll just put it on the back burner, and keep looking. If I find something, then I will go ahead and bring it to you. Also, we have a foundation meeting tomorrow at 4 p.m. We meet every other month here at 4 o'clock in the building. If you're interested in attending, we'll be happy to have you join our happy group. Also, and that's the end. I said I'd be brief. I have the list of all 103 books that the Waldman family has donated. If you would like to see it, I have a digital, so I can just leave this with you. And then I can print out another list if I need to. Okay, so if you would please let me know, and then we'll take the books to the library and that they can process them as needed. Any questions?
Do you, when you apply for that grant, do you have to have the project, what you're
Yes.
going to be using it for, to apply?
Yes. It's a rather lengthy grant. I will say it's pretty inclusive. We have to have all kinds of demographics of the, we'll start with that, the demographics of the district, free and reduced lunch, ethnicity, and then you get into the project itself. Yeah.
Does the 15,000 have to be split up, or can it be used on, what does that look like?
They will grant up to $15,000. So quite frankly, using the example of the CAD computers, that would probably cover the computers, between the computers and the software. Because there are free programs out there, from what I understand. I'm not as well versed in them, so I'm gonna have to do some homework myself in order to work with that. And of course, talk to people who taught it, like Dave or, Andy Baker, or the past teacher we had. I think Brent teaches something in there. So I'll have to talk with them to see what they would recommend. Anything else? Heads up, I brought this bag with me because I thought about this last minute. Every year I have read to grade 2 kids through the Pennsylvania Farm Bureau, and it's called Ag Literacy Week. It's in March, and we purchase the books and read to the kids, and then donate the book to the classroom teacher. So I do 2nd grade every year. I've done it for 3 years now. This is the book on the farm at the market that we'll be reading to the kids. I schedule time with them during their library time. And there is another lady who happens to be a farmer in our district, I believe. Her name is Becky Stewart, and she has volunteered to do kindergarten and 1st grade. Same book, same deal. Heads up. Okay? Anything else?
Luann,
Yeah.
on the little library.
Yeah.
Will we continue to add books to that? How does that, or we don't know that yet?
Lisa has pretty much taken over that. It's a donation. It's not anything that's, nobody buys them or whatever. It's just whatever books you wanted to put in there. And kids, it's like, we have a library actually at our post office in Waterville. It's the same type deal. People leave books, people take books. Side note on that, we were on vacation in Utah this past summer, and it's some little podunk town where we were camping. Walked into the little grocery store, and there was one right there in the front. It was so neat to see. It was just kind of neat to see. So these are all over the United States.
So they'll accept books?
They don't accept it. It's just wherever that book, that library will be posted. If you want to drop some off, just open the door, put them in.
Does anybody monitor what goes in as far as new books?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the teachers are going to be monitoring that.
Make sure they're appropriate.
Yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. I'm sure. I know I stop by every once in a while, peep, just to make sure.
I have a follow-up question. Where will they be placed? I missed that in the presentation.
So did I.
What did you ask?
Where the little libraries, adorable idea,
I'm
but where they're going to be
thinking-
placed.
In each of the elementary, she did say there'd be one in each elementary.
Placed outside?
It was stated that it'd be placed outside of all of the elementary schools.
Yeah.
Right, Mr. Wall?
She's back there.
Lisa?
Yeah, that's good. We're going to give them some ideas of where to be located outside of each elementary school, so that it's not blocking any pathways or cars or anything like that. Probably where we can be seen on camera. And then there is a teacher in charge of each library at the school to be the steward and take care of it and make sure there's books in there and clean it out and make sure they're appropriate.
By the way, she's trying to hide back there. That
I
Angela
know,
Walton
Ann
is actually
needs
sitting
to
right
stand
behind
up.
Mr.
This is
Rager.
the lady,
That's donating all the books, sir?
yes, this is the lady that's donating all the books. So,
Thank you.
thanks to her, yes. Good?
Mrs. Berry Crooks and Katie, do you have a presentation, or do you?
Yes.
Oh, you do have a presentation. Okay, there is another presentation. So you just want to turn in?
So I don't know how many months ago, but this came across our desk where Hesse
Hesse Truck company, like when we were kids and we did Hesse Truck for Christmas. They actually have a grant for schools to apply for, and it's like their STEM outreach program. And so Katie was willing to do the legwork of applying. And the Hesse Truck company, like their goal is to kind of have an army of problem solvers. And you explore practical transportation issues. When Katie shows you some of the lessons, it's pretty neat, some of the lessons that they're going to be using with the Hesse Trucks. And so we did get awarded the grant. It's 12 Hesse Trucks, it's like their rescue tow truck. And then there's 41-page curriculum guide actually with 8 different lessons. And so Katie's just going to show you some of the lessons, but here's the truck. And while she talks about the lessons, yeah, here's 2 of the binders that we, with the 8 lessons.
So who knew that they could be so beneficial, right?
Right.
There we go. All right, so there are, I think, 7 different activities that go along with it, and they're all supported by next generation science standards. And so the first one is the tow truck primer. It helps with students understanding towing and towing capabilities. This, actually, we kind of got a deal on these, especially because we got the grant. There's 2 in each. There's a team of them. So there's a big tow truck and a small tow truck. So they work together with students figuring out how to tow things. Then the next one is about hydraulic booms, and that picture that I have on there is what the students will create with the hydraulic boom. And then there's another one on stuck in a rut, and it talks about how it's important to have friction with the tires and things like that. Okay, and then these are the other 4. Then the students actually do a CDL driver's test with the challenging course that they have to go, and they actually get printed out little certificates. So that's cool. And then there's the Hesse Truck Towing Incorporated activity that is talking about they have to make equations for determining the force of the capability of a lever. So it all is relating to simple machines for science. There's also the Races On, which it talks about how it's actually a competitive business, and that they try to figure out the quickest and shortest route to an accident, so then they could get the vehicle to tow. And then the last activity is the cost of doing business. It relates to, the students learn about fuel efficiency in that lesson. So most of these are directed towards, I would say, 3 to 5, grades 3 to 5 lessons, so. And they would be in our STEAM lab at JSASD for teachers to be able to sign out or use in the STEAM lab. And in our lending library, so Avis and Southeastburg teachers could also sign them out.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Thanks. Before you guys move, can you change this over to the Apple TV, please? My presentation's rather short too, so rather than you guys moving, we'll do that now and then we'll do the budget, all right? All right, one of the things that we talked about a little bit last week that tried to make sure I forewarned you about is moving students and how we're going to end up doing that. So all I'm going to do tonight is kind of give you an idea of how many kids are not in their home buildings and what it would mean or somewhat look like in regards if we move special ed back, if we move all the kids back and didn't take parent requests, what that does to some of the numbers. Now here's what I'm going to tell you. These numbers are based on the beginning of January, and I already know they're not completely accurate because of kids that have left or have been identified or moved or whatever. They're not greatly off or anything, but the closer we get to the end of the year, the better idea we'll have in regards to numbers for next year. So this is just based on what we have currently and what it would look like next year. So the current numbers of students not attending their home school, just special education students, and we're only talking about itinerant IEPs that will be included, and what that means is students that are outside the regular classroom about less than 21% of the day. Because if they're supplemental or full-time, possibly some students that require intensive emotional support services, they would stay at Jersey Shore Elementary. That's because that's the only place we offer those services because of the low numbers that are involved. There are 25 IEP students attending Jersey Shore Elementary from Avis Elementary area. 9 siblings of IEP students are also attending Jersey Shore area elementary from the Avis area. There's about 8 IEP students attending Jersey Shore from Saldaysburg, but there are no siblings from those Saldaysburg students attending Jersey Shore Elementary. So what that looks like in regards to parent requests is there are 49 students total that are attending a school that is not their home school due to those parent requests. 39 are attending Jersey Shore Elementary. Out of those 39, 20 should be going to Avis, that's their home school. 19 are Saldaysburg Elementary area students. There are 8 attending Avis, 7 of which should be going to Jersey Shore Elementary, 1 that should be attending Saldaysburg. And then there are 2 attending Saldaysburg area that should be attending the Avis school. If, I'm saying it that way because if they were attending their home buildings. Okay? The current class sizes with that, as you see, those are the ranges. In kindergarten, the class size ranges from 13 to 21. In first grade, and I gave you the lowest and highest there as well. You can see the lowest class size for kindergartens at Avis, the highest at Jersey Shore Elementary. For first grade, it's 16 to 23, the lowest being at Sal, the highest at Jersey Shore Elementary. Second is 17 to 21, lowest at Saldaysburg, highest at Jersey Shore Elementary. Third grade is 17 to 23, with the lowest being at Sal, the highest being at Avis. Fourth grade is 25 to 28. So those are close to being balanced there. And again, lowest at Avis Elementary and Jersey Shore Elementary, the highest at Sal. And 5th grade is 23 to 25, lowest at Avis, highest at Jersey Shore Elementary. So that's what we currently have as of the beginning of January. Now, if all special education students, those itinerant ones we're talking about, are moved back to their home schools for the 2021 school year, that would involve about, and again, these numbers have already changed, 25 IEP students and 8 siblings. The other 8 IEP students and 1 sibling are current 5th graders. So they would be going to 6th grade and they're not involved. The other thing I don't know is if we had students coming in kindergarten, some of them come in with an IEP. I can't give you any numbers regarding kindergarten. Kindergarten registration started started today. So I have no idea regarding that. Transferring from Jersey Shore to Avis would involve about 19 IEP students and 8 siblings, and for Saldaysburg would involve 6. That's not including any kids that might be identified between now and the end of the year, which I am letting you know that there's at least 2 I'm aware of at Sal right now that will be identified soon. They've qualified, but they haven't gone through the entire process. All right. Class size range, if you moved all the special ed students and their siblings back to their home schools, kindergarten is you're going to see that as being unknown in these because we don't know how many kindergarten students we'll have next year yet. I did put in here we currently have 10 kindergarten teachers. First grade would be 16 to 20. Again, you can read the lowest and the highest there. 16 to 22 in second, 17 to 21, 16 to 25, 15 to 23. In order to do that, you see some of those numbers in like 4th and 5th grade especially dropped significantly. And that's because you would be looking at about 32 kids in some of those classes, so those are single classes out there right now, and you would need an additional teacher. There are things that you could do to make these numbers change a little. They're not things I would recommend. For example, you could have one 5th grade at Saldaysburg and have 30 kids in it. The problem with that is going to be if any other kids move in, you're already over, you're going to need another teacher anyway. And that can create, as we've seen in the past, that can create a problem. The number of additional regular ed teachers needed to support this scenario, though, is 6. And again, it depends on how you do it. Are you going to take any parent requests? Because if you are taking parent requests in this scenario, some of those students and parents may elect to stay at Jersey Shore Elementary, but they'd be providing their own transportation then if that happened, because when it comes to parent requests, we don't transport kids to and from the school. If all students, in other words, special education students, siblings, as well as all parent requests, if they were forced to go back to their home schools, if that's what the board decided, that would involve the 25 IEP students we just talked about, the 8 siblings, and 42 parent requests. Again, the rest are in 5th grade when we move forward. So going to Davis would be 19 IEP students plus the 8 siblings and 17 parent requests, all from various grade levels. I will tell you that I found it interesting that 11, and you'll see that in a couple of these, that a strong majority of them seem to be in kindergarten and 1st grade. All right. Transferring from Saladaysburg to Avis would be 2 parent requests, both from different grade levels. Transferring from JSE to Sal would involve 6 from various grade levels. That's the IEP ones. No siblings, and again, 17 parent requests, 9 of which are from kindergarten and 1st grade. So over half. Transferring from Avis to Sal, there is none. Transferring from Avis to Jersey Shore Elementary would be 6 parent request students, again from various grade levels. There's no students attending Saladaysburg that should be attending JSE. So that last one. If you moved everyone back to their home building and did not honor any parent requests or anything like that, again, kindergarten is unknown. 1st grade would be 18 to 22, 2nd grade 19 to 21, 3rd grade 19 to 23, 4th grade 17 to 24, and 5th grade 16 to 23. That would involve 4 additional regular education students to do that. One thing I will mention here is you can actually get those, you can see like 1st, 2nd, and even 3rd grade are a lot closer than they are in the other scenarios. You can actually get 4th and 5th grade a lot closer in those scenarios, but you need another teacher in 4th grade at JSE and another teacher in 5th, and that would put those numbers at around 19. Still higher than the other schools, but more balanced if that's what you're looking for. But that would take 2 additional beyond the 4 that are there. One of the options you could use is move the special ed and the siblings back to their home schools, but still allow parent requests. I just kind of wrote some of my thoughts down there. Some people might call them pros and cons. To me, they're just, here's realities of what it is. It would comply with the need to offer special education in home schools. We already know that we need to do that. Provides less educational disruption for students when they qualify for an IEP because they don't have to change schools. Does allow the parent flexibility with schools. Parent requests would still provide their own transportation, just like it does now. So them requesting schools would not impact that. Students with IEPs at Jersey Shore Area Elementary that are not attending their home school may elect to stay at Jersey Shore Area Elementary as part of that parent choice. So I don't know what that does to the numbers without knowing what those parents are thinking. That's why we need to make some of these decisions soon, because I want to reach out. Whatever you decide, if it does allow parent requests, I need to contact those parents and see what they want to do. And then we will have a better or more accurate idea of how many teachers do we need. Class size would not be balanced, but it's not now. If you're going to do that, if you're still going to allow parent requests, one of the things you could do to help keep things from getting too unbalanced is you could put a cap on a class size when looking at parent requests. So you could say something along the lines of, listen, we will allow parent requests if the class size in the building does not exceed X, whatever that number is. I do have the AR for class size, and for like, I think 3rd through 5th grade, it's 22 to 30. For 1st and 2nd, it's 17 to 25, and for kindergarten, it's 15 to 20. So I'm not sure how much flexibility will be there, because when you go back to these numbers, you can see even in this scenario, there, even if you use the lower part of that number as the cap, hey, if it's under what we recommend in our AR, there you can see that, like, especially in most of the grades, Jersey Shore Elementary would already not be able to accept very many parent requests at all. And then we have to talk about how are we going to identify who gets those parent requests, because there's not too many spaces there if you're going to allow that. If you picked a number in the middle, there would be some space at Jersey Shore Elementary. I don't recommend making that number very high, because again, just like with the outlying buildings, let's say you made the number high, and then you have a bunch of kids move, because we're going to have to make that decision before you do the budget, before you approve the budget, in order for us to know how many teachers we need. But then in June or July, you could have kids move in and could push that number over 30, which is not what you want to do, because then you're going to be looking at adding another teacher. The other option is move all students back to their home school. Now, again, that'll comply with the special ed issue that we need to have in the outlying buildings. Again, provides less disruption for students that get identified with an IEP. Class size is not balanced if you do that, but it is, as you saw, it is closer, and depending if you add another teacher in 4th and 5th, would make it even more balanced. It does take, however, it does take away parent choice of schools, even though they're providing their own transportation. And that would impact 49 of our students currently. There's other options. I mean, I'm not omniscient, so there are a mixture of ideas that we could look at. You know, then we're going to have to look at, all right, what about kids that are going into 5th grade that it's possible the only school they've ever gone to is the school that they're currently attending, even though it's not their home school. Do you allow 5th graders to finish out their elementary career in the school that they've been in for years? And if so, do you offer it only to 5th grade? Do you offer it to 4th? Or, you know, if you're going to do that, when do you stop? At what grade level? And what about their siblings? Because part of the parent choice part of it could be, okay, what if they're under the cap for a 5th grader they want to go, but not for the 3rd grade sibling, puts them over the cap? You know, do you allow that, or do you say it's up to the parent? If you want to split up your children, you can do that. If not, then you decide to send both of your kids to their home school. In any of these scenarios, the school, the students where this is their home school, they have to have priority, because that's their home school. And then if you're going to allow parent choice, then it's, all right, how many slots are available in those schools for people to be able to utilize if they want to put a request in. The next part of that's going to be, how do you want to do parent requests? Lottery system? Do you want to go with the kids that if they're already attending that school and have been, should they be given priority over any new students? You know, there's a lot to take into consideration there. We currently transport IEP students to Jersey Shore Elementary from outlying buildings. If they're allowed to stay at Jersey Shore Elementary, we would not offer that, because that service is provided in their building unless they're supplemental or life skills, because they would only be able to have that at Jersey Shore Elementary, so we would still transport those students. Obviously, if they attend their home school, both Avis and Salisbury have no identified walkers. They're all considered bus riders, so they would obviously all be transported if they went to Avis or Salisbury. If they were at JSASD and wanted to go out to one of those buildings, they would be transported the same way it works now. That is it. You can ask questions. I'm not expecting questions unless there's some burning things on your mind. This was just kind of information for you to take in and kind of look at in regards to, all right, what's the impact of this? And that way we can have that discussion next board meeting on what are your thoughts.
Please send us that in an update,
Yeah.
so that we, I mean, I don't know.
I can send it to you on Friday and make sure that you have it. I can probably send it to you tomorrow. I can, if you'd like, what might be better, if you're willing to wait till Friday, I can update the numbers to what they are from what Tori just sent out at the beginning of the month. And that way it's a little more accurate than it is now. And
And
it'll
it'll
be-
still change on one.
Oh, yeah, it'll change.
That's okay.
It'll change. So do you have any burning questions that you want answered tonight? All right.
Any board members have any objection to Dr. Davies sending out at the end of the week after he updates the numbers?
Sending it out Friday, that's fine. Fine.
Update them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
We are going to move out here with them for the elementary budget presentations. Not we, as in all of us, just them.
No.
This is the part you need your books for. Sit wherever you want to sit.
I did print out Avis and JSASD and Sally for budget section of the budget binder with all the attachments, so if you forgot your binder, I'll be passing Avis going this way, I'll pass JSC that way, and I will hand out Sal.
Those have the attachments.
Yeah, these have,
Well, what we have in here is accurate though.
yeah, numbers should be the same. We traditionally just go in alphabetical order, so we'll start with Davis. Kind of the game plan this evening, with all the presentations are, the principals will be going down through the budget books, their sections, the front part of the sections. Bring up just a kind of a top level overview. We'll take time to take questions from the board members. And then we will also discuss some concerns, if any, with the budgets. I know there's one with the elementary budget concerning FOSS science that we'll be discussing this evening. But with that being said, I'll start with Mr. Jean, and you can have Avis.
All right. On page 1, if you look at 1100, the regular instruction. You look at that, is there any questions on that? Obviously, you look at the previous year to last year to this year, and really there's no change to that.
One of the larger line items in this first page is the copier rental. There's a lease on the copier out at Avis. There's one copier out there. Its lease runs till 2023. That is the maintenance agreement and the monthly lease on it.
Any questions, 1100? If you look obviously from last year to this year, there was a decrease of probably about $1,500 in that. This year's 13,800.
The other thing to point out with the two outlying buildings, and well, all three of these budgets, is the information Dr. Dady just presented. What's decided will also impact these elementary budgets. So if the outlying buildings are going to have more students in them, there's going to be no more supplies needed for these buildings. It may not be exactly a dollar for dollar, taking a dollar out of JSC and putting a dollar into one of the outlying buildings just because there'll be classrooms added. Not necessarily classrooms taken out of her building. With pretty much all the building budgets, their two largest line item areas are regular ed supplies, which is 1100,610, which says general supplies. That's 13,800. And then the very next section of that is the 640s, which are the books and periodicals. Those are usually typically the largest areas in all of our building budgets. The supplies are typically the largest area. This is our general bid supply list, the Xerox copy paper stock, that's our copy paper that we get, and then just general subject area supplies.
Why was shipping and handling omitted this year?
That's what I was just gonna ask.
Shipping and handling, the way it's set up, is set up to be included in the line item details. There's 10% put under each one of these, so within the
Okay.
lines, that they're embedded in those.
Right, so art went from 650 to 715 because you embedded 10% there and took it out of the line item down below for shipping and handling.
Correct.
Okay.
I have a question on the book line. The actual for 1819 was like 4,400, and the budget for 2021 is 6,160. Is that due to some sort of a new edition that we may have to buy versus?
So that's your math, that's your everyday math.
Yeah. Under math, is that under mathematics?
Yes, yes, I see where it is.
I think it's 5,600 and now it's 6,160.
No, he's talking about the actual.
Okay, the actual.
And I'm going back to actual 1819.
It looks like
It's a 40% increase, that's why. What we actually spent 2 years ago, actually last year, but budget to actual for those 2 years is about 40%.
Isn't that the one that we ordered collectively for all the buildings? He's looking at actual, so your population further down, in 18 years, your population is down.
Wayne, that's on page 1 here is where you're looking, right? Is that what you're looking at?
Right.
So I just asked Mr. G, and he said that, you know, it's based on, that's a consumable of your everyday math.
Yes.
So if we're ordering it, when we actually place the order after the budget's approved, they have a better idea of the population, and you're saying in 1819 your population was slightly down.
Correct.
Correct.
Thank you.
Because the other ones have been pretty steady since then.
Or any other questions on the 1100 section? Under special ed in both Avis and Sal, there's a slight dollar amount for some speech services.
That would be an area that, depending again on what's decided, we know we're putting special ed back, so there have to be adjustments both in actually all three buildings, but as Mr. Ender said, it may not be a dollar for dollar amount, because you're not necessarily taking the class away from Jersey Shore Elementary, you're just taking a few kids here and a few kids here and a few kids here, and putting them in the outlying buildings. And so like curriculum-wise, that may look like a swap, but not in everything that's needed, because you might need additional teacher manuals. You're not taking a teacher away, but you need teacher manuals for this new teacher that's over here. Or just those sort of things, something that's more like a classroom set of something that you need for that class that you can't take out of Jersey Shore Elementary because that teacher is still there.
Did that stuff ever exist before all those services left the schools?
Well, our Journeys program is newer than that.
Right.
Those services exited the school before, and a lot of that stuff was brought in then too, as kids were brought in as they could, especially things that were designed for the special education classroom were brought into Jersey Shore Elementary. But yes, Journeys is newer. The everyday math ones.
It's about 5 years old.
So everyday math probably is newer than when it was last at Davis, but not from Salisbury. There are other things to remember with this, again, talking about classroom sets, not just special education, but like even with Journeys and stuff, in order to not spend more money than what was necessary, we bought enough classroom kits for the number of classrooms that we had at the time. So as we add additional classrooms, we're going to need more of those classroom kits that have all the teachers' editions and all those things, because we're going to have, instead of 6 fourth grades, we could potentially have 8. And so, do you remember the cost of those classroom kits for Journeys, Adrian?
I don't know an individual classroom.
As you can imagine, they're not cheap, but we're not, it's just one of those things that we'll have to have those. We'll have to see how many do we have, how many classrooms we're gonna have across the district. It's not a matter of we can't move them from building to building. That's not it, but do we have enough kids for the number of classrooms we're gonna have? So that's why in Salisbury and Davis, you don't see very much money in the special ed because it's based on what we currently have. And once we move back, we'll have to make some adjustments, and some of it will come out of Jersey Shore Elementary and other things won't be able to, but not even sure what to add until we know how we're gonna do that. By the way, for special education, especially at the outlying buildings, it's not a matter of buying necessarily one kit. You need those teacher sets for every grade level that you have a kid for. Jersey Shore Elementary, Eileen Rao, for example, has K-2, so she has the kits that deal with for those kids, where another teacher has just 3rd grade, so she only needs that kit. In 4th grade, she only needs that kit. At the outlying buildings, if you have kids in 1st, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, you need a kit for 1st, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So you only need 4 kits for that one teacher because it's based on what kids do you have for that.
The question, we're gonna be juggling, as we work through this over the next few months, we're gonna be juggling expenses that are currently in Avis that might move over to Jersey Shore Elementary or vice versa.
Avis, but there's gonna be expenses that aren't even here.
Right. And so I'm wondering whether we should have a cumulative expense unit for all elementaries. Because then we would actually be able to find out, be able to kind of reflect those changes rather than look at, okay, here's, $1,000 extra in Avis, and then we'll try to find that $1,000 over in Jersey Shore Elementary.
That'll work with some things, but for example, if we're looking at one where we purchase a student workbook, then we could look at it that way, because there'll be the same roughly number of students regardless of how they're divided up. But when we don't know the number of classrooms, that's the teacher materials, that is kind of a question we can't answer yet.
I think what Mr. Allen's saying though, if we had a district, if we had put a certain amount of funds in a district-wide type
Just
of,
elementary.
for example, district-wide special ed category for these kits, so we would know, okay, we need this many kits to go to this many buildings. Is that what you're asking?
Well, it's more of, if we see a big expense that's gone up for one building, but yet we can look at another chapter and see, for all of the elementary schools, we say, okay, well, yeah, the total, the cumulative for all the elementary buildings stayed close to the same. We can pretty much ignore that line item. But there may be other ones that the cumulative shows a big difference, and that would highlight that for us to say, okay, well, let's go back and look at all three buildings now and find out where that is, or at least know enough to ask where it is.
That may be difficult this year, because it's the first time you're putting those back. That's something we can definitely look at for future years, because you'll be able to see all together, across all three buildings in that category, what was the fluctuation. But without special ed being there at all, there's gonna be a big fluctuation this year.
You just want to look at budget numbers though.
Right.
We can build I can take the 2021 budget and make a cumulative elementary budget like you're asking, but it won't have the comparisons to actual or anything like that. It will just be budget.
Well, if we even have just, last year and this year, or this year and next year,
Okay.
that'll flag those line items for us, and then we can dig into the details maybe by building. If we
I should ask Peg if I said all that stuff regarding special ed correctly. Is that pretty accurate?
I actually said that you were gonna let her go first, that she didn't feel good.
Oh, it's okay. Do you want to move on to JSE?
Well, I was just going to go back down through, finish up Davis. Guidance office is primarily the Bark rewards. School library is primarily the books in the library. Instructional staff development does the conferences for the teaching staff. Principal, office of the principal, there's mileage in there. And then the membership dues and fees are the same for all the principals across the entire district.
And that's based on what's in your Act 93 agreement.
That's correct. And then pupil health services, that's kind of almost the same across the district too. It's just that is to run the nurse's office within the buildings. That's what those budget items are for.
I'm looking again at 18-19 actual, that's the summary, and the budget passed for 2021, and we have a 40% increase, 4,800. We've identified books as being a big part of that.
Are you talking about in grand total, is it 40?
Yes. What I'm trying to get to is, as we build the budget each year, do we actually look at prior year's expenses? I can understand that the budget versus budget, 1920 to 2021 is not significant. In fact, it goes down. But what expenses are we adding? We have actual for 18-19. What are the expenses that we're adding that requires another 4,800 in a 2-year period?
Part of, they're gonna have to answer this part, not me, I'm gonna tell you from some previous experience. So much of the elementary books are consumables. So some of it is based on at the end of the year, which you don't always know right now, because again, we still have kids that come in, kids that leave, they don't turn in their consumable books, we can't get them back, that sort of thing. How much of the inventory do you have to be able to start the next year with can have a great impact on how many books do we actually need. Because we're not gonna just order books and spend that amount when we have 6 books in each grade level or whatever left over. We count those towards the number we're anticipating. So you're gonna order a lot less, but if you end up short, now you're ordering more than what you did the year before because you count for that every year. That could be part of it, because we don't have a central place, because what we found, we don't hoard these books and try to keep a lot on stock. What you'll find throughout the year is JSE will, but their secretaries will send out, do you have any of 2nd grade Journal 2 math books? And if we don't, then we end up having to order them, which we don't want to do midway through the year because that takes time. But sometimes we have more left over in certain grades than others because of how things can fluctuate from when we do it now to August 25th. And sometimes we don't. And that could be some of that. I'm not saying that's $4,800 though. I'm saying that I'm sure that's part of the fluctuation in how you have to order these consumables especially. The other thing that can happen is textbooks, which tend to be the most expensive. So like Journeys has a textbook, and if we ordered enough when you look at our class sizes, the things that Tori gives us, you'll see there's kind of a pattern of 160 to 180 kids one year, and then the next year right after it's 140 to 155, and then next year it's high again, then the next year it jumps like that. So when you ordered for 140 some kids, but the next year you need 180 of that or for that grade level, and you have leftover ones for the grade levels now, that 140 is in another grade level, and you don't need that many, and you already have 10 left there. So that happens as well, which again accounts for some of that fluctuation. However, that's not, and we can talk about why that happens, whether your parents are holding kids, and that makes some years jump and some drop, but it's just how the numbers we work with when they come.
The principal's office services area, again, 18-19, we had 2 line items, travel and mileage reimbursement, and now we just have travel. Is that the same animal that we just
You combine those.
reclassified?
No. You combine those in your accounting when you do, right?
Correct, and the actual is broken out between travel and mileage reimbursement. When we budget for it, it's all lumped together under one line item.
And what kind of travel, would that be local travel?
Travel between the buildings.
That's the mileage part of it.
Yeah.
And between buildings?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Do you have any other questions regarding ABIS for now? Figure out last questions and stuff.
Well, I have a question, but it's not just strictly regarding ABIS.
Okay.
It would be to all the administrators and to both of the principals here and to the principals that will be coming. So it's really a blanket question for all of them. I know that it's no secret that we are facing an $875,000 deficit that we have to come up with. And I know last year, the principals did go through their budget books and save somewhere between $100,000 to $200,000, if I'm not mistaken. It was significant savings. My 2 questions is, one is, what is the administration recommending that we do outside of raising taxes? I would like to know, I would like to be given multiple choices outside of raising taxes to combat the deficit. And then my second question would be to both the principals, at least for tonight, have you gone over your budget books like you did the last time around? And really, really look to see if there was anything that you could cut? And if not, would you be willing to? If it came down to the 5 buildings, I mean, this is just a scenario I came up with just sitting here, but if it came down to the 5 buildings, cutting, and you each taking a part of that $875,000, what would you cut that you could honestly live without?
Well,
As a follow-up to that, it's very similar. The budget counter has meetings on the 4th and 5th of December between the administrators and principals. Are those meetings designed to make adjustments at that point, or just to compile what the requests are? I mean, has some of the work that Mrs. September pointed out to, is some of that hearing already been done to whatever degree it was necessary or felt it could be, or was that just compiling the requests and now it's up to try to find a way to figure
Principals compile the requests and basically present a budget to the superintendent and the business manager at that point, and then we discuss, if there are additional changes that need to be made at that point.
They turn their budgets into central office on October 31st, which is when I take them and compile them into our budget books. And then we meet with them in December, and we review their budget requests, and we discuss the things that are in there. We do add some things, we do remove some things from that point. The last budget update I just gave you, you'll see some small adjustments to line items, and those came out of those conversations.
At the beginning of the budget process, is there any parameters given to principals as far as what they should hold the line to, or anything as far as a percent increase in their overall budget or specific areas?
They're all requested primarily just to stay within where the prior year was.
They are able to move things around if that's what's needed, but not to go, they're if they go over what was the previous year, they have to justify it.
Previous year's budget.
Budget, not actually.
Yeah.
Yes. Even if you, and I just took a quick glance at the system, even if you, including CTE, if you took every school's budget, you still wouldn't get to the $800,000. And it's just not, that part of it, what are they willing to cut? I mean, most of what's in here, because of the cuts that have been made in previous years, are the textbooks, the health supplies that go to the nurse, and I'm talking about the things they can control. Because when you look at these pages in there that give this is the composite budget, and for Avis it's $28,685. That's not Avis's budget. That's the part he can control, that he has say over. Because it's not the things that we're in contracts for. It's not any salaries and benefits. It's not the 2400s, which is the 2400s is the electricity, all the utilities, any of the maintenance or repairs. It's none of those things. Is the part that basically he can manipulate in regards to, okay, this year because of what's coming up, I need more money here, but I can do with less over here, and I'm able to shift those things around. Or as you saw in that case, he went down 1,500 because he didn't need that. So making any major cuts out of that would be difficult because they need supplies, they need books, they need those sort of things. So the question you're asking is more really a question for Ben and I in more central administration than it is for the principals, to be honest.
And that's fine. For the next meeting that we have on the 24th, is that something that you could present to the board on?
Options?
Correct.
We can definitely start that conversation. I don't know that it will be as thorough as it can be in 2 weeks. And a lot of it honestly will probably, at least some of it will be some things you've heard before. I mean, people were pretty in-depth last year. But we can definitely look at some of those things that maybe we didn't do and brainstorm what else can we do.
How many generally, how many students are Davis?
Currently, there's 170.
Just a ballpark, thank you.
Yep.
So just to be clear, any projects that are happening in any of the schools, whether it's paving or whatnot that was discussed earlier, that does not come out of the principals. That's something that needs to be discussed with you, Mr. Enders, or with yourself.
A lot of the things you're referencing in regards to that, the capital projects, that's actually in the capital projects fund.
So that was decided prior to the board that's here now? Is that how that worked?
Capital projects funds is, you have a capital projects committee, which is Mrs. Thomas, Mr. Kinley, Mr. Becker, and the board president sits for that. They meet, we meet with them 3 times a year. We talk about projects that we would like to see done in the district. We review projects. What happens is the committee will recommend a project to move forward to the full board, which point in time the full board will take a full, complete vote on it. If you remember our most recent pool project, that was voted on by the full board on October the 17th. Point in time, then we sign a contract and move forward with it. We have one project right now in the CTE wing at the high school that we're moving kind of forward with. I'm hopeful by next meeting or the first meeting in March, you'll see before the full board a motion to have that bid out, which is solely just advertising and collecting bids. Then the full board would bring those bids to the full board with one recommended to them. That's typically how those types of projects work.
But to be clear, you did say out of necessity or wanted for the capital projects. It's something that's required or something that we would prefer to have happen?
Well, it depends if it's, what do we have? What was back there? We had a boiler go down or a hot water heater go down at the high school. That was a necessity.
Correct.
We have a roof situation out at Salisbury. That's going to be a necessity.
Correct.
Eventually, some of these things are preferred, but they're preferred because we don't want to make them necessities.
I know, I just want to be very careful with the money that we spend.
So that's those projects, but yes, they are outside of this
Fair enough,
process.
thank you.
We can move on to JSC if there's no other questions on either. JSC's budget is set up, at least outlined a lot very similar to Davis and Sal as far as what goes into the budget due to the population of the building. Obviously, the budget is typically higher. Said earlier, the primary areas of expenditures are their general supplies and their books budget, which their books budget is the everyday math consumables on it. They do have special ed, so you will see a slight difference there. So their special ed section, the 1200, will be slightly higher for their life skills classrooms in there. They had 2 life skills classrooms in that building. Outside of the 1100s, their Their sections of the budgets are the same as far as guidance, school library, their instructional staff, and their principals, and then their pupil health.
How many students before?
645.
45?
Yes.
645.
To answer your earlier question, Mrs. Summer, one of the things that would be possible for us to take out would be under the 2200s. 2 years ago, we basically removed all professional development expenses from our budget. So we have over 50 teachers, and that means they could not attend a conference, they could not, go to any type of a professional development or learning type of event. We can't do any type of development with our staff that would require spending any money, basically. So for instance, Mrs. Barry Probst and I would like to have done book studies with our staff on different occasions, on different topics, but we don't have any money to purchase books for a book study, things like that. So I did add back in some funds, that's why you see the increase in the 2200s. But we can certainly take that back out again and just choose not to have that. So that's definitely one of the things that we could do away with. Everything else though, I feel is pretty much the necessities. As far as the consumables, the textbooks, the instructional supplies, the pupil health services went up slightly because of AED supplies and EpiPens that we're required to have. The only reason the 1100 number went down is because we have taken our FOSS science expenses and kind of broken it up over several years as opposed to buying everything in 1 year. And we can go into more detail about that, but that's basically why you see the number going down instead of staying the same as it has been in the past 2 years. Have any questions?
Is there something special with the music that it's gone up so much?
Yes, actually, in all three buildings, we are purchasing, or we would like to purchase, a new general music curriculum, and this year would be the curriculum for grades K to 2. So we would be purchasing the same materials for each of the three buildings. It would cost $1,000 for the K to 2 materials. They were chosen by our music department, and I did bring along some information about them if you, I don't know if you want to pass those around, but those would be the materials that would be purchased for Mrs. Becker, our general music teacher. She teaches all students in K through 5 at all three buildings, and so she'd have a set of these materials in each building.
So if it's $1,000, does that go into the JSE budget or the?
$1,000 into Avis, 1,000, yeah.
In 1,000 in each?
Yeah.
Because the kids rotate through, so you
Right.
don't need,
She
just because
has to-
JSC is bigger, you don't need multiple ones because the kids rotate through to the teacher. This is one of those areas that, again, the principals discuss and prioritize, okay, this year it's music for this, there's other things they would like to do in other areas, but it's gonna have to wait because it would push their budget too high. So this is one of those things, all right, this year it's music, next year, they might be able to do one of these other things that put on the back burner because we just don't have the funds to do it all at once.
So those materials were a recommendation from our music department. And we can get you more information if you have questions about them.
I will say that if that is an area that you're looking at, you know, is that something we really have to do, then before you make that decision, I think you should have the elementary music folks come in. If that becomes an area we look at.
You didn't increase the overall budget.
No.
Because the count was counteracted by your science being so low. So it's obviously science, you had to get more science stuff last year than you have to get next year. Or this year, I guess, than next year.
Any other questions regarding Jersey Shore Elementary? When we're done with Jersey Shore Elementary, I'm gonna let Ms. Johnston leave and see Bill.
Why don't we discuss cost then?
Yes, let's talk about costs.
Okay, for anybody who is new and not familiar with FOSS, it is a science resource that we have been using. It is aligned with the next generation science standards, and there are 3 units of study. One is earth science, one is physical science, and the last one is life science. Together, all 3 of them should build a comprehensive science curriculum K through 5, which prepares our students to go on to middle school, go on to take the biology keystone, so the life science unit is important. Our plan as a district was to purchase one of those units each year. So we started with physical science, then earth science, and now this year was the life science year. The life science kits involve some more expenses than the other 2 kits, and it involves a little bit more research and learning more about the kits. So this year we purchased the life science kits for grades 3 through 5 only, and we basically what they come with is a little card that the teacher mails in, and it gives them whatever living thing they're studying. For instance, 3rd grade right now is studying crayfish. So they mailed in the card that we purchased with their life science kit, and the company ships them crayfish along with the live algae that the crayfish eat. And they have these crayfish in their classroom and they study them, goes along with the unit of study. So what we did not realize prior to this year is that the purchase of the living things is an ongoing expense. Every year you have to purchase those cards. And it's more significant than what we thought, which is why we only started with grades 3 through 5 and not K through 5. But as we're using them this year, we're learning that there are many ways we can potentially limit those costs. For instance, the 3rd grade class that's using the crayfish right now, they were shipped 14 crayfish. And ideally, I guess the company would like you to purchase a lot, of course. They ideally plan the activities for maybe partners, and each set of partners has their own crayfish. And as we know, that's not necessarily something we have to have. So the teachers are already realizing, you know, can we team up with another classroom and have just a few crayfish between us, or whatever the living thing is for that grade level, instead of, it seems a little wasteful to me anyway to have 14, you know, for 25 students. Yeah, so we're learning as we go that that number that they tell us we have to spend each year, it doesn't really have to be you know, that significant of an expense, and I think we can make it work by significantly decreasing those costs and looking even at other places to maybe purchase those things that might be less expensive.
Through the study and analysis that the kids do with it is a crucial skill, but again, they're a company. They're trying to make a profit and that sort of thing. It's just, like she said, what we're realizing is we can make do with fewer critters and still teach the skill.
And that's why we kind of elected to go into it slowly with just grades 3 to 5, so we can kind of work out those bugs, so to speak, as we go.
No pun intended.
No pun intended. And then when we know more about it, then we'll look into buying the K-2 curriculum, but not until we figured out a little bit more about it. Do you have any questions about FOSS?
So just to clarify, then, what we're looking at this year is just the 3 to 5
Living things.
critters.
Yeah, critters.
Okay.
I apologize, I think I missed it, but what does it stand for? Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
I don't know that it's an
or-
acronym, I don't think
Okay,
it
it's
is.
some fancy sites.
Are these kits tailored to the PSSAs that the kids take, the testing? Because I know the time is few that they can teach these kids and prepare them for the testing. And some of the teachers, I don't think, have the time in order to take advantage of the FOSS kits like you may want. Is that right?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's tailored. For example, like our Journeys curriculum resources, they're geared to the Common Core standards. However, we follow the PA Core standards, so it's a slight difference. The same thing with these are geared to the next generation science standards. We follow the PA standards. And so it's a close match, but I wouldn't say that it's tailored to our test. However, having the foundation of all of those areas, the physical, the earth, the life science, is important for our kids when they go to take the science PSSAs, and even when they move on to take biology and take the biology keystone. This life science will be a background for them in that area.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Last but not least is Salisbury. I apologize for the duplicate summary printout. There's not a whole lot of change between Salisbury and Avis's budget that we haven't already gone over. Again, the general supplies are in there, the books and periodicals, the special ed costs.
About how many students are at Sal?
171.
How much?
171.
171.
And then the support services for the guidance, the school library, instructional staff development, which Mrs. Johnson just spoke to, the office principal, and the people health. One of the things we did with the office principal for this year between the two buildings was we basically took the budget for John's office costs and divided it in two and split them evenly between that, Davis and Salisbury. So that's why you'll see a little slightly increase in Avis and a slight decrease in South.
So Avis and Sal are one student apart. They're almost exactly identical size.
Right. Are there any questions concerning South?
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to let you know real quick, in the budget binder that you gave to us originally in the actual binder versus the handout, there's a typo in the music. There's no increase with that. The music, I think, is up to 2530 in the handout, but in the budget itself, it's never increased. Just so you're aware. I didn't come across any other discrepancy, but I wasn't looking really hard either.
Mr. Becker, in the most recent enrollment update from Roy Mike sold on February 3rd. Avis was 171, Sal was 174.
Okay.
Did you catch the, everything she got?
I might get some clarification from her. I will find it.
You will find it.
That's fine.
And JSC's on, as of February 3rd, was 620.
Thank you.
When you change your insurance to 634. When you change your insurance.
629 as of February 3rd.
Okay, the board is going to go into executive session for personnel. Hopefully it'll be a short one tonight, and we'll be back up for that. Come back more good. The board's back in session, and I'm looking for a motion to add items L and M to the personnel agenda this evening. L would be the appointment of Sharon Koch as a network computer technician, an annual salary of $45,000, effective February 11th, 2020. And M is appointment of Eric Hewling as head boys tennis coach at a stipend of $3,040, effective upon receipt of his TB testing results.
So moved.
Second.
Mary.
Mary and
Okay.
Dave.
Any discussion on those two? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And again, that's just to add them to the agenda. So now we have personnel items A through M. A courtesy of the floor for items on the agenda. We have two sign-ups. Mr. Pryor.
Good evening, Board. Considering the charter school funding resolution, I couldn't agree more with that resolution. It's a good resolution, it's well worded, but I would ask this Board, before approving it, to consider what happens to the monies paid in excess of that actually spent at the charter schools. In other words, the money we send them, they don't spend it all. What happens to the rest of that money? You might want to make a point there somehow. But also, who will receive this resolution from the school district?
It was to PDE, I believe. Is that correct, Mr. Anders?
The board we can send it to PDE. I know PSBA has requested us to send it to them. So I'm definitely going to send it to PSBA. I can mail it to PDE. The board can make direction on where they want to go. Send it to. You can also send it to our local legislators if you would want to do that. But that can certainly be driven by the board if you wanted to provide a list this evening on who all to directly mail it to.
I assume it's going to the governor as well?
You can send it to them too.
hopefully. Okay, thank you.
Okay, next person signed up is Mr. Francis. And that's about item K, or A in this list.
Bert Francis, 1425 Road. Just real quickly, with time is waning. Item A under miscellaneous, the bus trip to Baltimore Aquarium. I spoke to the teacher who started that program 25 years ago today. And it might interest you folks to know that program started out at a one bus level. It built up and got to a 2 bus and sometimes a 3 bus and back and forth. And think about this, getting 50, 100, 150 kids ready to go to Baltimore and everything. And they tried to, in the process of doing this, at least try to get at least maybe 6 to 12 students that they knew would never be able to afford, or be a long time before they could afford a trip like that would be as valuable to them. So they always come up with a bus with at least 6 to 12 young people in that might get a trip that they would never realize in later life. So these teachers work hard on doing these things and so on and so forth. So I'm plugging for this one, and the lady who taught it was my daughter. So that's another plus too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Francis. Okay, at this point, we'll close session of courtesy floor, move on to personnel. We have items A through M. I have a motion approved.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion or comments on those? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Curriculum instruction, we have the approval of the 2021 high school course guide.
If you do have any questions about that, Mr. Keene is here to answer any questions.
Motion to approve then? No motion?
Oh, I make a motion.
No, somebody made a motion.
Mr. Petrowski made the first.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
And second?
Is this supposed to be the course guide or just the handbook?
It's the course guide.
I didn't see the course guide, that's why I was looking for it today, so I must have totally missed it. I was looking for it on Monday. That was not easy. I
When
can't
did,
imagine- I
Pam
can't imagine
said
it's that much
something today
different than it
regarding
was.
when she sent it? It was sent a while ago.
Well, I was looking for it in all this new stuff.
And I checked with Pam this afternoon actually, to make sure that you had it. She placed it on your seats last board meeting, so you should all have had it.
Oh, was it that? What did he, what?
It should look like this.
No, it looks like that.
No, I never saw that.
Yeah,
We got the handbook.
Yeah, we got the handbook,
But that we never got.
Yeah, we got a
We didn't
handbook
get
last
that.
time.
That was what was on our seats.
which I,
So I guess the question is, have you added any new courses? And have you taken any away?
Let me explain the minor changes we've had. And we do have a couple of changes in here. The only classes that were added, we added a technical English class to support our CT students with some of the communications type things. The CAD program that we're hoping to build. The CAD program was part of Andrew Baker's engineering program, which we lost a couple years ago. And that is a big chunk of what a lot of the CTE programs need, that the employers are asking for. We don't have that anymore. So we're trying to find a way, not necessarily get the whole program back, but a class, so our students can get that skill back into place.
So you have a class, a first level class in the new,
We had an entire CT program. We had-
no, but I mean, what do you have for next year in the?
Just a class,
Okay.
one period class. The other item that we added, just some changes, in the English department, we're going back to a full-year English. After ninth grade, we had a lot of half-semester or semester-based classes. We're going to tighten that up with grade 10 English. We're going to start with that and progress as we go through. Reason being, those contents can be taught in a four-year class. The teacher can decide how they want to teach those. But semester-based classes in our scheduling system, it's a nightmare. Because logically, you would think, put this one semester one and this one semester two. The scheduling program doesn't think that way. So it may put period 2 and 3 in semester 1. You know, it's very difficult to get those aligned. So we're going to go trying to reduce some of the conflicts that we have scheduled. The other item that we adjusted, two others in the CTE world. One based off of student request. Students, we currently have what's called an industrial technologies rotation, where they rotate through 4 of the main programs for 9 weeks. Students want other options, and they've been asking for other options, so we expanded that to 6 or 7 options, and they still choose 4. So it's still going to be a 1-year, 1-period class, but they may not be interested in automotive, for instance, and they want more, maybe a business or communications or something like that. And so we're providing more options there. Same 1 credit, 1-period rotation, but giving them more opportunities. And we're taking the senior level in CTE, the senior year, it's a 3-period block in order to get hours. In the career and technical education world, our students need 720 hours to be what's called a completer and be able to be certified in career and technical education. That's extremely important because that reimbursement is stronger, the certification's better, gives us more Perkins funding. There's a lot that goes into that, and that's a big deal. And as Mr. Becker knows, our students do exceptionally well in 720 hours, as opposed to a lot of other schools that are at 960 or 1,080. Our students are still outperforming many other schools in the state. So it's a great thing. However, with where we are, with the number of staff that we have in the building, we have conflicts because we don't have enough opportunity for students to take classes. So if they're in this 3-period block, they may not be able to take the AP class that they want or the Penn College Now math class that they want because it's unfortunately falls at the same time. Now it's impossible to fix that 100%. We simply can't do it. That's not feasible. However, we're trying to find ways to make that work. So we took a period of the 3-period block and called it a flex period to give students some more opportunities that still meet the task list in career and technical education. So that 1 period may not be with, for instance, manufacturing. They'll be with manufacturing for 2 periods. Then that 1 period may be in another program or maybe technical math or something where they can still get those tasks and it still covers the requirements for career and technical education. We have to watch that carefully, but it does provide a little more flexibility and opportunity for our students. We're going to try that. This was something that our CTE teachers came to me with. I said, can we try to add a little bit more flexibility and give them an opportunity to teach something very specific? I will give you a for instance of one of the flex classes. Well, web and social media is a flex class. Well, that would be good. We have, I think we have like a home instruction or home remodeling flex class. Any other students can take this as well. So it's also a lead-in for students who aren't in a CTE program. But CTE students are required to take these because they need the hours. Okay? They're the big changes.
Any other questions for Mr. King?
Did you include the 2 new classes we just added?
Yes.
The guitar and
we should be.
Is
I'll
it
check it before I send it to you.
time sensitive that we need to do it tonight? And then table it
The
till-
sooner we can do it, the sooner they can start their schedule.
Yeah, we can't schedule without having it approved.
I'm assuming that all the pathway stuff is in there that helps them pick their classes and figure out their.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We broke it,
Is it-
because it was starting to become such a large document, we broke it up into two parts. You'll get the course catalog, which describes all the courses, and the career pathway, and I'm sorry, I thought you had these, so I would have brought them for you. The career pathway, which identifies the scope and sequence of courses and recommendations. You'll get that as well, you'll see what we're looking at.
Mr. Keene, if you want to send me the electronic version, I'll make sure that they get it as well, so they can see everything that you've discussed with them tonight.
Absolutely.
Everything's like that.
Any other questions?
These are the classes. that we-
These are tied directly to the local high priority occupations, again, for the CTE. Those task lists is their curriculum, but it's tied directly to the labor market and what's needed.
How behind would it put you if we put it on the agenda, the next agenda? Do you need it before then?
It would be helpful, but we can, I mean, just gotta bump scheduling back a month, probably.
If you're comfortable keeping it on the agenda for approval, then that will allow them to get a head start on the scheduling unless there's some major concerns with the, with any of the things he brought up regarding the changes.
Would I be able to start just preliminary scheduling, just to get the ball rolling? And if there's any changes for next meeting, we make the adjustments.
And then put it on for approval next meeting? All right, why don't we do that, and just, I'll email them that document once you get it to me. Sound all right?
Okay. So ultimately, we did not get a second on the motion, so we'll just table it to the next meeting for approval.
Sounds good.
All right.
Sorry about that.
Can we still second it, or is it done?
Yeah, I don't really have any issues.
I don't have any issues
I don't
with
have
it.
any issues.
I didn't have.
I just got this, and I was like, this isn't what we normally get.
Well, and I wondered because.
I'm comfortable after what he told us.
Yes,
I
that's-
was looking forward today, and I'm like, well, I don't
If
know.
it does not pass.
I thought
we
you
can
were
still
presenting it
put
to us
on the
tonight. and
agenda.
we were-
Okay, well, let's move on. Do we have a second to go ahead and give Mr. Keene approval for his
I'll second it.
course catalog? Okay. Any other discussion we haven't had already? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
You're
Thank you.
gonna
Yeah,
send
good
us that.
deal.
You will have it tomorrow.
Thank you.
I want to try buses.
Okay, miscellaneous, approval, the state trip, field trip to, the aquarium that Mr. Francis was speaking about. And various other items. Any questions, or can I have a motion to approve A through J?
So moved.
Second? Ms. Ostrowski, second. Any discussion on any of those?
I just had a question with regard to A and B, simply because I'm not familiar with them. Are they a result of clubs, or if you could just provide a little bit of the background for me?
I think the aquarium has been a kind of an extension of the Key Club, I believe, this.
Well, it's out of the biology classes.
Is it biology? Okay. And that has been going on for, many years. Kids always get a lot out of it.
But the Baltimore trip?
Yeah.
It is a nice trip. I had to go last year because a chaperone had to back out at the last minute due to a family emergency. We put that below the ratio. And so as I was dropping my son off, they were like, hey, are we going to be able to go? We don't meet the 10 to 1 anymore. And I was like, Dr. Jill, I'm taking the day off. I'm in Baltimore.
That's good.
That's a nice trip.
Okay, we have a motion second, any questions on any other of those line items?
Just a comment for new people. Anytime a field trip is out of state, we have to approve it as a board. If it's in state, it's usually just approved through the principal, through the process unless it's.
No other discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And for this evening, because we have some scheduled legal business to take care of that we're already late for, we're going to eliminate the second courtesy of the floor, and the board will go into executive session for legal, and will not conduct any additional business when we return.
I didn't quite catch that,
Yep.
Mr. President. You're eliminating the second courtesy
Yes.
of the floor?
Yep.
How can you do that without board approval?
Does anybody on the board object to eliminating the second courtesy of the floor?
Is there anybody else that wants to speak?
I think if
We
people
have-
are
we
here
have-
to talk, they should be able to talk, but.
Well, we have people waiting.
There's a woman that held her hand up at the
We have
last.
comments. Yes,
Oh.
very important.
Okay. Move on.
Bob Pryor from Township again, thank you for recognizing me. Considering Dr. Dady's presentation on the student transition, with all due respect to Dr. Dady, wouldn't it make more sense to place everyone, the elementary that is, into one school like Jersey Shore Elementary? Wouldn't it save money? Wouldn't it end need to hire more educators, highly paid I must say? Wouldn't it be easier? Wouldn't it be more convenient for the administration, staff, and parents? Considering the declining student population, which I know some of the past members refuse to recognize, and the building maintenance costs, why doesn't this Board of Education wake up and do what surrounding districts are doing? Consolidation. Get rid of your biases and do what's right and best for the students and taxpayers. All those past and present school directors who have opposed rational, common sense solutions to resolve our fiscal dilemma. And I'm going to say this, I said it before, you couldn't make a profit operating a hot dog stand if we gave you the hot dogs. This whole presentation, if approved, will only cost more money. This is exactly why Jersey Shore School District is the highest taxed in Lycoming County, and exactly why this district ended up years ago going to court to get approval to raise school taxes 26% in 1 year. Please wait. Wait until some of your directors wake up and do the right thing. Thank you.
Mrs. Helm?
Hiya Township. I don't even know where to start. I guess my notes are recycled. Because I go back to 2005 when I first came on the board. We had $5,000 in our bank account. And here we go again. I remember Dr. Conroy shipping everybody all over this district. And I thought Bruce Bonsall cleared that up, that we weren't going to ship students all over again. You know what I'm talking about. So then we also, let me see, in 2006 we started out evaluating our outliers. Do you remember that? Anybody else? I know you do. Harry's not here. She should. She was at the high school as the principal. We spent some time over at Jersey Shore Elementary. You're the one who gave us the walkthrough because I was pregnant and couldn't even go. I had to leave with Noel Allison. That's how bad it was. So then we started doing round robins. I remember we had a school closure hearing over at the middle school. Remember it was Avis. That didn't work. So for the next 2 years we did feasibility studies. I have it all here. 2008, 2009, 2010. That's right, we had a whole bunch of people here because we were going to start cutting the bottom line, as in arts and music. I remember all the teachers who are now dead being here, having issues with that. So we took some flack there. Yeah, we did 2008, 2009, the feasibility study, but that never happened. Remember, that never happened. So for the next 2 years after that, the enrollment was declining even more, and I see tonight that, we're down to 174 out of, and I know both those buildings are 350. And then when we went through the comprehensive plan, we decided on the one concept. If you remember, look at this. That actually really happened, Mary. You know, here I thought, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Personalized, please.
Okay, yeah, right. This really happened. No, but I'm sitting at home and people are like, well, that never happened. Oh, we spent so much money on a building. No, that became a renovation consolidation thing after 2 years of our renovations, because we were going around and doing that. And here we had a plan. I remember that, look, it was packed. That was 2013. Packed, we had that packed. We already had that floated PDE. I know it's still there, actually. They came up with a few other plans too, because you can get that on the PDE website. So I'm just a little confused here too, because our numbers, it looks like our numbers aren't up. And the reason why we decided on the consolidation is because safety issues. We wanted to bring everybody in for safety issues. And number two, that would be like our powerhouse, all the resources
This is how many,
for our
3 minutes is up,
students.
just please wrap it up.
Okay.
please. Thank you.
So I was just wondering, you know, are we gonna make a decision? Because we don't even have a contract. I mean, if that goes any much longer, is anybody saving for that? Because that's gonna be retroactive as well. I mean, we're gonna have to make that up.
Please wrap it up, thank you.
Okay, well, hey, I was just wondering, you know, I know our elementary teachers don't have flex time. We got it up at the high school. Our kids need.
Bert Francis, 1425 Locust Street. I intended to wear that jacket tonight, but I put a few pounds on since 1949. I met with Dr. Wenrick back in late 2017. I had this jacket and a box full of sports memorabilia. We had a nice visit and talk, and I left all that here, and there was going to be some follow-up on that, and so on and so forth. Late last year, I come back and recouped all my materials back in the closet here, someplace in a box, and that's where it ended up. Now I have it back. Went to a wrestling match here 2 or 3 weeks ago down in Milton, and I was out in the lobby looking through the trophy cases, et cetera, and I got the one where it was a heritage section of their trophy presentations. And I saw a jacket similar to this, but what really struck me was I looked right down below that jacket. There was an old squished up football down there. It said 1938 Milton 6, Jersey Shore 0. That kind of struck me that was in a trophy case, and I saw it that day, whatever. So also I know that the Little League Museum has a heritage section. Now, I'd like to see something. Now this jacket in particular, I'm one of 8 athletes in the history of Jersey Shore School that are allowed to wear that jacket. And I'm sure there will never be any other athletes that will accomplish what we accomplished to be able to wear that jacket. So I would like to see some of this heritage stuff picked up and taking place. I didn't put the jacket on, but that's, the front part is, I'll go to the back first. This is 1949. Undefeated football season, we won the championship at a lake. Over this side of the jacket is a basketball on there. 5 of us from that team were the first team on that year's Central League Championship in basketball. So there were 5 of us on the basketball team, and there were 5 on the start of the football team. I don't think we'll ever see that happen again. We also had a couple champions in there. So I'd like to see something like that happen. Is that possible? We could stimulate something like that. I can bring all that stuff back and you can look it over, and you may never see it again. That's that part of it. One quick comment before I sit down. I understand, and I see you have one member missing, I understand that we cannot vote because we gotta get the president of our board seated correctly. He is not seated correctly. We've got to take a vote, and we've got to sit, it'd probably be a repeat, whatever, but let's get it done correctly. You do not have to have a full board here to take that action and do it. If you're interested, there are 3 ways that you can get that matter resolved. And I don't know who the parliamentarian is, or where you get your information, said we have to have a full board to do this, but I'll guarantee you, we do not have. So I'd like to know who the parliamentarian is, and does he meet the national and state qualification to be a parliamentarian. So let's get this matter settled, and then we move on to bigger and better things. We can do that right now in 5 minutes if you'd like to. Thank you.
Mr. Scheinman.
John Sherman, 220 Mount Pleasant Avenue. I don't know who come up with the idea of transferring all these students around with it. But we went through this, as Mrs. Helms was saying, getting the genie back in the bottle. And all the different options tonight, crisscross and everything, and then what it might have, the potential ramifications for the budget. And we're already running almost a $900,000 deficit. You might have to hire more teachers. Reminds me of a freaking Chinese fire drill. Nobody knows what they're doing.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll close courtesy of the floor and move into executive session for legal.